Do you remember when you were a boy when the first time you ever saw an actual airplane?
Well, the P-26A. We rode our bikes. This one buddy of mine, and he went in the Navy during the war. But we rode our bikes. I don't know. I think the runway was always this long, I guess. You know, kids didn't know. I was 12. We saw this P-26A landing, you know, and we were all excited about this.
Right.
So this police car came around and chased us off. We went right across one of these, you know, where you get off the runway and get onto a taxiway. You know, they have a lot of these crossovers. You know?
Right.
And I guess, he chased us off anyway. That was exciting.
Yeah.
But everything was all busted up, and the lower part of Beacon Hill was in the height of a depression. There's tide flats right over here, further down. It's filled in. Seattle was different. The biggest building was the Smith Tower.
Right.
I would never have dreamed of Seattle like this.
You've really seen Seattle grow and change over the years.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, in fact, my wife and I have been married, it'll be 64 years this December, if we can hang in there.
Okay.
And, let's see, at the time, I'm trying to remember, 64. Well, I went into the service. I had to get my parents' permission. I remember that. But I became 18 2 weeks later.
Oh.
It was in February of 43. I was a senior in high school. I graduated. And then, let's see, June 8th I went on active duty. Went, you know, the usual basic training. And
right.
That was Army then. Air Force.
Yeah.
During Harry Truman's administration is when it changed to the U.S. Air Force. I think it was 47. I was already out by then. And I got discharged in September of 45. And I went into active duty in June of 43. So.
Where were you stationed in England?
Bury St. Edmunds. It's about 70 miles northeast of London. Most of our bases were in East Anglia. If you're familiar with the map of England,
I'm familiar with the
map. There's a place called the Wash, and then there's kind of a bulge out there. And then London is down here. Manchester and all the Midlands were inland more. And that's where, you know, Coventry was badly bombed.
Yeah.
And in fact, that's where the radiators were made for British cars. And a lot of other industrial plants were located.
Yeah. Because I know Rolls-Royce started out making airplane engines, and
that's correct.
Yeah.
Right.
And then switched over to cars after the war.
That was, you know, my favorite fighter plane.
What is it?
Spitfire.
Oh yeah.
And the next one I liked was a Mustang. And the Thunderbolt. Those were the Mustang. Ironically, first of all was a British design. Maybe you knew that.
I had heard that.
Yeah. And it was designed for a low-level ground troop attack, you know, an attack fighter at first. That one over here, he's a Brit.
Oh, okay.
And he works with that yellow vest. He and I are pretty good friends. And he works on special kinds of cars for an outfit that sells British cars and real fancy cars like that.
Yeah.
And,
so tell me, where did you meet your wife?
Here. I met her at friends, and my wife was a relative of theirs, and she was living with them at the time. She'd come over here she was a farm girl from South Dakota.
Okay.
And so I went over there with my mother passed away while I was in the service. And so we went there to visit and with my folks' friends. And I met her there because she was related to these folks. And from there, I knew her about 6 weeks. And then we got married.
Did you get married before or after the war?
After.
Okay.
Oh yeah, I would have been way too. Well, I was young as it was.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't even 21 when I got out of the service, and I was 17 technically when I went in.
Right.
Reserve. But that reserve lasted what, 3 months? Or 4 months?
Yeah.
And
they needed you, so they said, "Get in here. We're going to teach you how to be a tail gunner."
Yeah, greetings.
Yeah.
People have asked me sometimes during some conversation or something, and, well, didn't you get drafted? I says, no, I like to play games. I says, no, I avoided the draft. Like a certain friend of ours, whom I don't like, who was our previous vice president, who stayed out and said he had previous commitments, and yet he's a hawk.
Right.
That's what I don't like about him.
Yeah.
Anyway, to get back to that guy upsets me to this day.
Well, you've got a lot of memories. I mean, it takes a little while to sort through them. You've done so much.
Well, anyway, we got married, and the reason I did it to avoid the draft, believe it or not.
Okay.
Because I wanted the lesser of two evils, and besides that, I was interested in airplanes, and I said, hell, I'm going to go into cadets if I can.
Okay. Yeah.
And but unfortunately, I didn't become an officer, but I ended up staff sergeant, I guess it was.
Okay.
Which is what most gunners were.
Right.
And but I was chastised by this interviewing officer that said, well, you should have put navigator down with you. You took a lot of physics in high school and all that, and it was fresh in my mind. And they had what they called a CTD when you got after you went through your Army basic training, and they shipped you to all these different schools all over the country. Usually they were attached to a university or something. But I lucked out. I got sent from Kearns, Utah, which is near Salt Lake City, to Ellensburg, Washington.
Okay.
Of all things, you know. And so that's where I had my CTD, College Training Detachment.
Okay.
And we had classes. It was mostly ground school. And we got introduced into flying a Piper or a Taylor Cub, you know, just to see what it felt like to fly. And that didn't bother me.
Yeah.
But for some reason then we went to pre-flight school. And that was at Santa Ana, California at that time. And I think you might know where that is.
I know where Santa
It's in
is.
the LA area.
Yeah.
Orange County. And from there, that's where we went through all this classification and all that, and they decided where you're going to go, navigator, bombardier, or pilot training. Pilot training then took primary, basic, and advanced. And in advanced, they decided whether you were going to go into, you know, multi-engine or fighters or whatever, or maybe flying paratroopers, that kind of thing.
Right.
So